Well, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to our new episode of He Said. A look at the world from a seasoned Black man's perspective. I'm your host, Alvin King, and welcome to our July 28th episode, ladies and gentlemen. We are so happy that you are joining us tonight because we have an exciting show for you. Our special guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is Robert Jones Jr. He is the New York Times best-selling author, and he's here tonight to talk about his latest novel, The Prophets. And we are, again, very, very excited to have him here. I am holding my book right here. This is a must-read book for the summer, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm going to put my book down because we're going to talk more about it, but this book is amazing, and you got to get it. Whoa, okay. Is it hot enough for you? All right. It is 100 degrees almost in DC, and it is feeling it. My poor plants are going through, a major beating, and it literally feels like a Spike Lee movie outside of my house when I go outside. I have not been outside but once today, and after the show, I'm not going out. I'm not going out for the rest of the day. But please do me a favor and stay hydrated, everybody. Drink your water. And while I have you and talking about health and self-care, COVID is real, ladies and gentlemen. COVID hasn't gone anywhere. I've been talking to a lot of people who know people who are getting COVID. So if you get the opportunity, go and get I don't know if it's the third, the fourth, or fifth. I don't know what booster it is, but they are available. So go and get it. I want to use this platform to let you all know that you got to take care of yourself, and you have been warned. Okay. All right. Here in our city this week, the White House, they designated the Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley National Monument. Yesterday, on what would have been Emmett Till's 82nd birthday, President Biden signed a proclamation establishing the Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley National Monument in Mississippi and Illinois. The new national monument will tell the story of the events surrounding Emmett Till's murder, their significance in the civil rights movement and the American history, and the broader story of Black oppression, survival, and bravery in America. The new national monument will be anchored at 3 historic sites in Chicago, Illinois, Summer, Mississippi, and just outside of Glendora, Mississippi. These sites are also central to Emmett Till's racially motivated murder in 1955 and the defining events that followed, including the courageous activism and leadership of his mother, Mamie Till. I want to say congratulations to President Biden for doing this at this time when, we need something like this, when we are experiencing a lot of folk trying to basically erase history, ladies and gentlemen. It did happen. All right. Again, getting back on my health tip for you, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, Bronny James, he is recovering from a cardiac arrest, and he was released from the hospital on yesterday. 3 days after he collapsed during a basketball practice, a cardiologist at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles confirmed that he's been discharged, and he is home resting. And his father, NBA superstar LeBron James, said on social media that his family appreciated all the prayers and everything, and they are safe and healthy. But he also said, in a signal of the family's optimism and relief, his son was back in the gym on yesterday, working out with another young basketball star. My man, I need you to listen to your body, okay? Because young folk are leaving here and don't know why, and take care of yourself. And just in, Fox has decided to postpone the 75th Emmy Awards due to the ongoing strikes by the Writers Guild of America and SAG-AFTRA. We knew that it was happening. So, you know what? I'm glad that it's happening because we need to continue fighting for all these writers and all these folks who are in that industry who are not getting paid or getting their just due. If everything goes well, Fox has decided that they may run the show later this year. They haven't picked a date, probably in September. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, in my news, I'm going to get Croc on you, okay? I am a Croc fanatic. I know a lot of people are Croc fanatics, and Croc is doing some great things earlier this year, those big red boots came out. I am going to get down with the get down, and I am going to have a pair of these Crocs. Now, not there's some high heels that women will be wearing. I won't be doing that, but I want to see a woman in a pair of these high heels. But Croc is back, and I don't give a crock what you all say. I'm going to have me a pair of these Crocs, these boots this summer. So watch out. You know, I'm a trendsetter, so I'm coming to you in my own way. All right. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I want to get on with the chat and get my guys in here. Let's go.
Those things are ugly.
Which ones?
Pick one.
I mean, you know, there was a bunch of shoes that came up.
Pick a pair.
I like the boots.
Ugly.
I like the boots because I'm a Croc guy too, Alvin.
I'm a Croc guy.
Whenever we think about that one, we have to take it with a grain of salt.
Right. He's just crocked out. He's not worth a crock. So that's why he doesn't.
I don't give a crock.
Okay, he don't give a crock. Okay.
You have
Croc
to
on
into the Croc
world. If Croc works for you, you work it. That's all I say. Own your Crocism and work it.
Have you ever worn a pair of Crocs?
Do I look like I've ever worn a pair of Crocs?
That would be a no. No.
Whoa.
I would say no. I would say that you're not a Croc lover. You probably like those Jesus shoes. What do you call those Jesus shoes with the big old
Birkenstocks?
Birkenstocks. You probably like those. You look like a Birkenstock guy.
You look like you have Birkenstock toes. You do.
Okay. You know, you're wrong. Y'all wrong. Let me say hello to some of these folks who are up in here. Shannon, Shannon, you hear all this banter? Shannon, welcome to the show tonight. Monica, how you doing? Give my love to Oscar. Too much. Wait a minute. You're too much for me. I think that's JJ. Hey, JJ. And we got Blue. And who else is here? Who else is here? Tammy.
Tammy's here.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in this evening.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Wear your Crocs if you like them.
Bobby, I didn't mean anything about your toes.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
I think your toes. I love your toes. I think.
Have you seen my toes?
You know what? It's a little TMI getting ready to interrupt in this room, and I don't think you know what's going on, Q. I don't know if we want that. But
Q likes toes though. I'm that's much too much information. But Q likes toes. So did my little brother Q. He's a toe lover. He likes good feet. That's all I can say.
This is called frozen lips.
TMI says Blue. Just TMI.
TMI. Well, since we're talking about what we're watching,
yes.
The talk of the times now, everybody is watching Survival of the Thickest right now. Come on with it. It is. Vash, have you had a chance to look at it yet? Because I know I've been kidding Bobby up about it. Have you had a chance?
I tried to watch a couple of episodes. I got to episode 2, and I love everybody who they are bringing onto the show. It is the niggerati of everything, right? I just don't. I didn't laugh once.
The what?
I'm like, wait. The what?
The what?
You've got Peppermint. I was happy to see Peppermint from RuPaul's Drag Race, transgender actress. You've got Sasha. You've got the woman who, what's her name, from the Real Housewives of, Tasha's on, but the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
We got Garcelle Bouvier.
Garcelle.
Yeah.
I mean, like every person, you know, it's one of those shows where they've got all the cool hip Black people that, you know, are in. I just didn't laugh once. It's too it's not for me, but we've already talked about the criteria that I have for the shows that I will and will not watch. Mm-hmm. So it's just not for me, but y'all will like, look, it's all the people that you know that you would want to see. You want them to succeed. I love that you guys love the show. It is not for me.
Well, thank you.
Well, I'm going to put my Crocs on and just walk out.
You know what? I'm just going to say
it's not for Crocs.
I'm going to say that is a piece of TV that hopefully you will come around to when you look at it on one of those days and you just all of a sudden it hits, you know, like a good song. You know, sometimes you hear a song because, you know, I blast Beyonce's album, didn't I? I mean, I blasted Renaissance and had to pull it off the internet.
Hey, Sean.
But you know what I'm saying? You have to listen to it or look at it twice. So, but I mean, this show covers so much ground in different areas of life that I was not expecting. And the lead actress, actually, what's her name? Michelle
Buteau.
Buteau.
Mhm.
One of my girlfriends have bought tickets for me to see her in October here at the Kennedy Center.
Uh-huh.
She is
And
hilarious. I've seen her comedy on like Netflix and so forth. She is hilarious. Hey,
yeah,
George.
it is really a good show. Like I said, they and what I'm finding as I, because I posted something on my social media,
Hmm.
it's such a diverse group of people who are commenting on it. I mean, it is like captured the attention of so many different people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm so sorry, Vash, you didn't get into it because I want you to like it. I do.
I know, and I tried. I really did. I was like, well, let me get through this episode because sometimes it takes 4 episodes for to really get into it.
Yes.
I'll try episode number 3, but I'm okay with you guys loving it. I'm okay with that. There are other shows that need my love.
Thank
just
you.
just do it before you drink wine, and I think you might, with a clear head. And I think you might.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, I watch most TV shows that way. I only do this show this way.
Okay. Hey, Rose. Hey, David. Hey, Sean. Hey,
There's
George.
only one show I have to drink to get through. That would be our show.
First of all, I want to thank everybody who's online right now because our special guest has truly gotten your attention.
Yeah.
He has been getting, ours, and I'm telling you, he is here because I picked up a book on one of his friends' coffee table. And before I could get out of the house, I was like, give me his number. Please connect us. Do whatever you have to do. And tonight he is here, ladies and gentlemen. So if you guys are ready, I want to go ahead and get him in here because I want to talk to him about the prophets and, just there's so much to share. I don't want to give anything away. So if you guys are ready, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Let's bring him in.
You ready?
Yes.
All right. Robert Jones Jr., formerly known on social media as Son of Baldwin, is a Brooklyn-based award-winning writer. He is the author of the New York Times best-selling novel, The Prophets, which was a finalist for the 2021 National Book Award for Fiction and winner of the 2022 Publishing Triangle Edmund White Award for debut fiction. In his debut novel, The Prophets, Robert ambitiously reimagines a past in the antebellum American South and pre-colonial Africa in which Black queer lives are foregrounded. At the center of The Prophets is a love story between 2 enslaved men, Samuel and Isaiah, who dare flout their owner's intended use of them by choosing to love each other instead. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our He Said stage tonight, Mr. Robert Jones Jr.
Hey.
Hey, Robert.
Alvin,
Yes,
Vash, Bobby, thank you so much for having me. This is such a blessing. Y'all are funny. Vash, please keep watching Survival of the Thickest because I had the same reaction. The first 2 episodes were like, yeah. And then by episode 3 and 4, I was hooked. So
Okay. Thank you. After that introduction that you got and all the love and respect, I appreciate you coming here and representing for me.
I'm glad you're here because none of us do it. So I'm so glad.
You need to put your Crocs on. Come on now.
No,
Well,
that
Robert,
I won't do.
Again, thank you for joining us tonight and taking time out of your schedule to be here. So I'm going to kick off the line of questioning for you tonight, my brother, because I want to hear from you. So, Robert, again, welcome to the show. If you could take a few minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself, and for those who have yet to read The Prophets, tell us a little bit about your story and the story world you have created.
Sure. So I am Robert Jones Jr., a writer from Brooklyn, New York, Bed-Stuy. My husband and I live in Bed-Stuy. And I have been writing since I was 6 years old, but never really took it very seriously because I come from a blue-collar family that said, get a good job with good benefits and a pension, and writing does not do that. You could do that on the side as a hobby. But something inside me, maybe the ancestral voices, I'm not sure, always pushed me toward the direction of writing. And I came to understand as I got older that it was my purpose. And how I began writing The Prophets was because in undergrad, I did not find any books about the subject of queer people prior to the Harlem Renaissance, Black queer people, and was specifically interested in the presence of queer people during antebellum slavery. And since Toni Morrison said, well, if you cannot find the book you wish to read, then you must write it. I said, okay, I'm going to write this book. And it took me 14 years to write The Prophets. And it published the same year that I turned 50. So for people out there who think it's too late, it's never too late. And The Prophets is the story of Samuel and Isaiah, two young men enslaved on a plantation in Mississippi during the 19th century, who fall in love and whose love reverberates through time and also alters the course of events that happen on the plantation around them.
Thank you.
Hey now, I mean, for real though. For real though. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our show. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in.
Please make sure you like and subscribe.
Get the book, Amazon.com. Okay.
No, I mean, that's so amazing. And I can't wait for us to really dive in and to explore everything and that you just said, including your marriage, the book, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you found that you had a calling for writing, when did that happen? Was there any specific thing that happened where you were like, oh, no, this is where I got to go?
Two things. When I was 16, I read Terry McMillan's debut novel, Mama, and realized for the very first time that my own life, my own experiences in Black communities was a worthy subject of literary examination. But still, that wasn't the moment to put me over the top. The moment that put me over the top, I was about 31 years old, lost a job, and was about to apply for another job that was not really something that I wanted to do, but it was basically to pay the bills. When I saw an episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show, and she had this expert on there that said, you know what your purpose is. It's the thing that you do so well and you've been avoiding your whole life because you're afraid of failure. But what you need to do is just think about the next step you need to take to fulfill this dream, this purpose, not the last step because it's going to seem too daunting. So I said, okay, the next step. And that's when I realized what the next step was, to go back to college and get my degree in writing. I knew right then, when I got back into school, was reading all of these wonderful authors like James Baldwin and Toni Morrison and Gloria Naylor and Alice Walker and so on and so forth, that the feeling that I got inside, the inspiration that I got to write continually into the midnight hour, that was the moment when I realized this is my purpose and I have to pursue it.
Wow. I just want to let you know that I actually was in an interview with Toni Morrison and I asked her a question about her book and she said, well, sweetie, if you want to read that, you should write that. So I'm just letting you know that what you said about her is 100% true. So who were your inspirations then as you were growing up and or deciding to write?
The first sort of my origin story for wanting to write was my father buying me at the age of 4 a Wonder Woman comic book. And I was so fascinated by her powers, her abilities, her deflecting bullets with her bracelets, throwing her tiara like a boomerang, lasso that could tell the truth, invisible plane, and living on an island of all these women who wanted to make the world a better place. I was so inspired by that idea that at age 6, I started writing Wonder Woman stories with me as her sidekick. So I would have to say that my father and Wonder Woman were my initial inspirations.
Oh my gosh, Linda Carter is smiling somewhere.
As a sidekick, did you have a nickname? Like, what was your name?
Wonder Boy. You know, I couldn't come up with anything more special than that. But side note, my friend Phil Jimenez, who is a comic book artist, actually drew me into a Wonder Woman comic book years later as Wonder Boy.
Wow. And were you in red, white, and blue as well?
I was in black and gold.
Come on now.
So
Strapless?
that was nice.
See, I told them before we came on, I said, there is something special about this man. I don't know what. I said, I don't. Wait a minute. Wait, producer, please put that picture in the center. Please put Robert in the center.
Come on now.
Yes.
Wonder Woman.
Yes. I love
All
it.
day long.
Oh my God.
Thank
Who
you.
knew?
Oh my God. I'm sweating. You know what? Oh, thank you.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
All right.
Okay. You mentioned that it took you 14 years to write this book. I think of a friend of mine, Isabel Wilkerson, who wrote Cass. We were classmates at Howard together, and the length of time that it took her to write that book. Share with us a little bit about what went into the process of creating, the setting and so forth. Obviously, you did not exist during the time of slavery. What was your process of building and creating the setting for the book?
I mean, first of all, the way that both you and Vash just casually mentioned Toni Morrison and Isabel Wilkerson, like they're just, casual, regular people and not the legendary icons that they are. First of all, bow down to both of them. That's number one.
Yeah, extraordinary writers indeed. Yes.
My goodness. So for 14 years, what took me 14 years? I was scared because once I started deeply thinking about, okay, how do I imagine queerness in a time where most people believed that queerness didn't exist, particularly between Black people.
Yes.
In this sacrosanct era where, for us in Black communities, we don't talk about it or we don't talk about it in particular ways. And while at the same time recognizing that the origin of what we now call anti-queerness or homophobia or transphobia began sort of with colonial religions. So I would have to, one, imagine wholesale Black queerness in the 1830s. I would have to reckon with maybe getting some pushback from members of my community about daring to write about this time period in this particular fashion. And third, I would have to critique Christianity. So I was scared. But once I got past the fear, it was just a matter of, one, getting past some of the critiques from my fellow MFA students who thought that this was not a worthy subject matter to write about, finding the confidence to still write this book despite their feelings. And then it was about finding the time, because I had 3 part-time jobs in undergrad, 2 part-time jobs in grad school, and then a full-time job after I graduated. So I was writing basically, as Toni Morrison would call it, the edges of the day. So when I can grab a moment here and there, and then dedicating an hour from 3 a.m. to 4 a.m., the magic hour. So I would set the alarm for 3 o'clock, wake up, write for an hour, go back to sleep, set the alarm for 6:30 to get up to go to work.
Wow.
And so because I was doing those little snatches, it was taking me all of this time to write. But I kept doing it. I kept writing and eventually got the manuscript to a point at which I thought I could share it with other people. First person I shared it with was my husband, who gave me his critiques. And my husband is a lawyer and a Virgo. So, those critiques was on point.
With love, from a place of love.
From a place of love.
Yeah.
And then eventually showed it to a friend who was an adjunct professor at NYU, who told me that he really thought this had some value, and eventually got it to a literary agent, my agent, PJ Mark, who said, Robert, we have to publish this book. Wow. So that was 14 years.
Was that 3 to 4 o'clock hour chosen because of the quietness? Because I studied when I was in school. I was a bit of a night owl because of the fact that the rest of the world was quiet. I think I was able to focus on it. But 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't know.
See, the Roberts know. That is that's the most quiet time.
Did you hear that, Vash and Alvin? Did you hear that?
Well,
So
you don't have to
Robert,
worry. You don't have to worry about me. I'm never calling you at 3 o'clock, so you don't have to worry about it. So if I
the
call
fact
you,
that he said the Roberts no is what I want you to know.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what I was like.
if I call you at 3 o'clock, I want something. Okay, because okay, and I'm just saying,
What?
and it's probably for you to take me somewhere. But
You were saying, Robert.
That it was the quiet that drew
Yes.
me to that particular period, the magic hour, where the world is so still and so
Yes.
quiet that the voices that you need to hear can
Come
reach
on.
you.
Yes. Yes.
well,
So
you know,
you're saying that the Roberts have a lot of voices in their head other times, which explains a lot.
See,
Robert means the meaning of Robert is bright fame. So don't mess with us.
Like, right?
okay,
Bright
remember.
fame.
Remember, these squares are only so big. So heads can expand. We can't make these squares larger.
What
So
is that big bright thing in Bobby's square?
Lord
there?
Jesus, Lord.
Have mercy.
You know, Robert, you touched on while you were going through what you went through in the 14 years of creating the novel. Are there any specific challenges that you faced? Because this book, first of all, writing about queer love during this era, you know, and I'm just going to say, Black folks, we got a problem with slavery. You know, when it comes to slavery, and then you throw religion up in there too.
Yep.
You know how Black folks like there was no gay slaves, and you know, no. Did you?
Is that how they
face
sound when
any-
they said that though?
They did in where I live. Come on over here if you want. But no, I know. Were there any specific challenges, Robert, that you faced that you could share with us that almost kind of made you say or question whether or not you were doing the right thing?
The most prominent challenge was the fact that I didn't know if I had the skill to pull this off. I was constantly doubting my own ability to do this, not realizing that writing is a art form where you are always a better writer today than you were yesterday. You're never as good a writer today as you will be tomorrow.
Okay.
So the key is always revision. And you know, it'll never be finished enough for you as the artist because you're always striving for perfection.
Yep.
But it will be finished enough such that you can release something that you can be proud of. So the biggest obstacle for me was insecurity and doubt about my own ability. The second was, if I write this, will I encounter anti-Blackness and anti-queerness from the general public? And do I wanna set myself up as a target for those things? So that was a deep fear. And then the other obstacle, as I was previously mentioning, was time. I never had enough time. And I always had to really try to make the time to commit to this and not let my full-time job or my personal responsibilities get in the way of what I said I was setting out to do. I had to make that promise to myself that I would never give this up. And so I never did.
Wow.
Thank you. Wow. That's real talk.
If I could just interject, the book is really, truly amazing, beautifully written. It's an amazing journey. And if you go to our link tree, linktr.ee, he said live, go to our our blog, our website, and there are links to go and buy this book. I really, truly, truly want you guys to do that because you really do need to read this book.
Thank you.
You mentioned a bit earlier the whole 3 to 4 magical time, the magic hour for you and so forth. And a lot of writers talk about the perfect setting that evokes their creative spirit, if you will. Other than the 3 or 4 o'clock hour, are there other things that you need to have in place to be your best creative self?
Yes, I need to have nature. I need to be able to like go out for a walk and just take in people, places, and things, trees and sun, animals and birds, flowers. You know, I need to be able to experience the physical world in a way in which I could acknowledge its beauty, such that I can remember it and render it on the page, so that my characters live in a place that feels real. So I really need to be engaged with the outside environment. The other thing I need to have is support. I need for my friends and my family and anyone who loves me to know that I need time and space, that I'm not shunning you, but as an artist, I have to kind of go into my own little world in order to bring this forth. So I need understanding from the people who are closest to me. And I also need the ancestors, the ones who came before me, who risked life and limb so that I could be here in 2023 as a writer, because, you know, it was illegal for them to read and write.
Absolutely.
By threat of punishment or death.
Or death, yeah.
And so they persevered so that I could be here at this moment to put down the things that they couldn't put down, say the things that they couldn't say, write the things that they couldn't write.
Yeah.
That's a huge responsibility, and I feel grateful to have that responsibility.
Yeah, the addition of the ancestors to that list almost makes it a spiritual experience.
In very many ways, it is. In very many ways, it is a spiritual experience. It feels that way sometimes in the book. When I'm reading through it, there are whole passages that I don't remember writing, because there were moments when I was writing that it felt like something else was taking over, and I was just the conduit. So, indeed.
That's not late night writing. That's what you said. You said that.
Yeah, the magic hour. Yeah,
the magic hour.
Well, I'm gonna dive into the book right now, and Robert, I want to talk about Samuel and Isaiah, or have you talk about Samuel and Isaiah, who are the main characters in the prophets. First of all, my visuals of Samuel and Isaiah, you kind of worked me. I had to go back. I had to keep. It was so quiet in my house. I thought Samuel and Isaiah was going to come out of a room, okay? Because you had me in that place. But of those two characters, which of the two were the most challenging, or I don't want to use challenging, or were most fun, or the easiest, however you want to define it? Tell us how you went about creating these two characters.
Well, using Baldwin and James Earl Hardy and Elin Harris and other Black queer men who came before me, watching how they built relationships, how they had two Black men in love and were intentional about two Black men being in love. I knew I wanted to start there. The other thing I wanted to do was ensure that it wasn't this thing where some non-queer people think that something bad had to happen to you in order for you to be this thing now. So you were raped or this or abused or this or that, and that's why you're queer. I wanted it to be known from the beginning that when these two were very young and the first time they encountered each other, something sparked. And they could not articulate it because they didn't have the language. But when they got older, they realized what they were feeling for each other was a deep and abiding love. So those were really my intentions. And the other thing is I wanted to make sure that they were different. That one of them is much more aggressive and much more, in some ways, violent, while the other one is kind of more thoughtful and strategic and unashamed of the love that they share, so that they have sort of this push and pull, this tension, that I think would have been interesting to the reader in addition to myself. And I wanted to also make sure that I broke down some stereotypes about the aggressive one has to be the top and the less aggressive one has to be the bottom. So in my world, that's kind of flipped because as I see it, your sexual desires are not linked to your personality expression. It may be that way in pornography or in popular queer images in media, but that's not, it's more complex in real life. And I wanted to reflect that as well.
It's often the opposite, actually. I find that more people who are usually more aggressive and in control typically are the ones that hire the dominatrices. So, I mean, to have that represented in your book was really lovely, because that's the sort of the way that I think. For those of you who needed to have the Linktree link, we have put it into the chat. So wherever you're watching, you can go to the chat and find our Linktree. It's also on the screen. Got to do a little housekeeping because we want people to follow our stuff and subscribe, because it helps us. So, Robert, we know that LGBTQI people have been on the planet since there have been people on the planet, right? You have given your characters biblical names. What made you decide to do that?
During the research process for the prophets, and the research process was exhaustive and extensive. What I kept encountering was the ways in which Christianity was weaponized to subjugate continental Africans. Other religions too, like Islam, were also likewise weaponized to justify the dehumanization and enslavement of African/Black peoples. And so one of the things that I noted was that when a European would capture an African and enslave them, the first thing they did was say, all of your old culture, all of your old languages, all of your old names are hereby erased. And now you will be subject to my point of view, my religion, my culture, my God.
Yeah.
And the first act of that was usually, I'm going to rename you.
Mm-hmm.
And they would usually rename the enslaved people Christian names from the Bible. And so I found that at once disheartening and also enlightening. And so I said, what I'm going to do in structuring this novel is I'm going to give every, or just about every enslaved character a biblical name to sort of represent that paradigm. And I'm also going to entitle some of the chapters after books of the Bible or the apocryphal books, as a way to both undermine the Christian dogma that went into enslavement, and to draw attention to the ways in which Christianity played a huge role in antebellum slavery.
Brilliant.
I wanted to ask you something about your dedication page, and I have it written down so I wouldn't misquote it. It says, Mother Morrison and Father Baldwin, in a list of blood relatives, the elders, whispering to me so that I too might share the testimony. You've called them, Morrison and Baldwin, your literary influences. So could you share with us how your writings, or why your writings, actually identify with these two iconic writers, and how they inspire your style and approach to writing?
James Baldwin, I came to rather late in life. I had heard of Baldwin, but I didn't know very much about him at all. I didn't even know he was Black. I didn't know he was queer. I didn't know he was a writer. I didn't know he was from New York City.
Iconic.
Iconic. And I didn't know he was as brilliant as he was.
Ahead of his time. In so many ways, yes.
A prophet in the real sense. And once I got exposed to his work in my first semester going back to college as a 31-year-old, he blew my mind with just the relentless intelligence of his writing. He was just so right and said it in such perfect terms. All the truths that so many of us fight so hard to avoid. So he had a profound influence on my political sense.
Mm-hmm.
Toni Morrison, who I began reading a little bit later, a little after Baldwin, wowed me with the magnificence of her language. Sometimes when you read Toni Morrison, you might finish the book and be like, I don't understand a thing I just read. Because the
I'm
language
gonna have to
is
read
so
it again. Yeah.
it's so complex, the
Yeah.
ideas, the language, the imagery, everything. But something about it still pulled at me. And so I said, I didn't understand this the first time. I'm going to read it again. And I got it a little bit more the second time. And I said, but I still need to read it. So I read it. I read Beloved. This is Beloved I'm talking about. I read it
I
one
figured
more
as
time.
much.
I read it one more time. And then something said, boom. And the way she opened up the English language for me made it something that is inherently Black rather than inherently European. Turned it into something that can be liberatory instead of enslaving, that could be honest instead of dishonest. I said, how do I do that? And I may never learn how to be as great as Baldwin or as great as Morrison, but I will forever be chasing their extreme excellence.
I applaud that, and I just want to ask very quickly. I'm sure you have seen "I Am Not Your Negro," the
Yes.
production, the movie on Baldwin. That yes,
I
that
have,
is just
indeed.
yes, highly recommended. If you haven't seen it, listening audience, "I Am Not Your Negro" on James Baldwin. Incredible.
We'll put links in our webpage, which you can find on Linktree.
There he is.
He said. There it is again at the bottom of your screen.
There it is.
So I want to touch on something that I didn't get an opportunity to be a part of, Robert. You blogged for nearly a decade under the name Son of Baldwin, inspired by Baldwin's end-of-life prayer that his work someday be recovered among the wreckage and rumble of the world he left behind. The Son of Baldwin grew into something of a branded community. And on Facebook, the Son of Baldwin's page had more than 150,000 followers, facilitating discussions about sexuality and gender and disability that are often neglected by mainstream outlets. What did creating the Son of Baldwin play in your journey of writing the Prophets?
An essential one. It played an essential role in my education in particular, because never before social media did we have the ability to, for example, have a conversation with a Black transgender woman in Kenya, or a lesbian in South Africa, or a Black queer man in Nigeria, and try to understand how our struggles are similar and how they're dissimilar, and what ways in which we can build community across divides when the whole world is trying to, pull us apart. How do we come together? I learned so much about authors like Bell Hooks. I learned so much about so many theories, feminist theory, queer theory, as a result of coming in contact with scholars who became part of the Son of Baldwin community. I got such an education about the ways in which I, too, have oppressive qualities based on some of my identities, and the ways in which I can unpack that and not feel insulted when somebody has a critique for me, and understand the ways in which we can be in community with one another in ways that are less harmful. Son of Baldwin was also essential in helping me to it helped me practice writing, because I was writing all the time for Son of Baldwin, essays and commentary and other things that helped me sort of fine tune my own thoughts about writing. So it was an essential experience that I eventually had to give up because of the stress around being a social political community online, dealing with death threats and trolls and agents who are dedicated to causing disruption and confusion and inciting sort of animosities between us. I had to find another way to continue doing that work offline. because my health was actually being affected. In 2019, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And one of the things my neurologist and my primary care physician told me is you have to minimize stress as much as possible. And it seems to us that your constant engagement with social media is a huge source of stress. So figure out what it is you put as a priority, your health or this thing that you're doing. And so I put my health first.
Thank you. Wow.
Well, applaud that.
Yeah, because you must. I mean,
Yes.
you know, you got to be healthy first,
Choose you.
and everything else can come through.
Choose you.
So, Emmy, Grammy, and Tony Award winner Billy Porter may soon have the chance at an Oscar, make him an EGOT, with an upcoming biopic about James Baldwin. Not only is he going to be starring as James Baldwin, but he has an opportunity to co-write the film alongside Dan McCabe. Alti, no shade. How do you feel the story of James Baldwin should be told, and is this the right direction?
I feel it should be told honestly, because Baldwin would have it no other way. Like if he was here, he would tell the truth about me.
Yes.
So that's the first thing it has to do. And I don't think people should underestimate Billy Porter. Billy Porter is an enormously talented individual, in ways that he hadn't had the opportunity to show us because of the ways institutional homophobia sort of pushed him to the side and said, we have no place for you here. So I'm very interested in seeing Billy's take on this character, what he brings to it, how he brings it to life. I'm very, very interested in seeing how this film is put together.
He watches the show. He's a huge fan.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
I'm sorry.
He is. I don't think he's ever watched the show.
He's horrible.
He's horrible. He's horrible.
And of course, I immediately thought of Bayard Rustin when you were saying the way that you were describing how the restrictions of the society kept him at bay, and in the restricted his level of creativity because they couldn't pigeonhole. They wanted to pigeonhole him and not allow his creativity to flourish as it could. So there are example after example of people's creativity that have been stunted over the years as a result of societal restrictions.
So, Robert, we're going to prepare. I'm sorry. Were you going to say something, Robert? I'm sorry.
Not at all.
We're going to prepare for you to actually. Robert is going to bless us with the reading of an excerpt from the book. But before we do that, I want to ask you: is there a scene or chapter in the book that is your favorite, and which of them was the most difficult to write?
Oh, that's such a good question. The most difficult part to write was the scene where Samuel and Isaiah are being punished. So much so that I couldn't write that scene direct to their punishment. I had to sort of see it through their eyes and then discuss what they're seeing as what happens to them happen. Because writing it, and I had to write this scene over several times to get it right. When you're writing about pain, particularly the whippings, you feel it on your skin. Your skin starts to burn. And so I was feeling that, and I was like, okay, so maybe that's the ancestors telling me to take another route with how I'm portraying this. And finally got to a point where here is how I will describe it so that the reader knows what's going on, but I don't have to describe in excruciating detail what's happening. And then my favorite section of the book is the chapter that comes right after that, where the women of the plantation gather to heal Samuel and Isaiah after they face this punishment. Because I feel that that's it shows in so many ways that even though we were under the yoke of slavery, that these people try to turn us from human beings to some lesser form. We still held each other in high regard. We still took the risk of loving one another, knowing that we could be snatched away from each other at any moment. And we still had fight in us to defy and to heal from the damage that was being done to us under that wicked system.
Still
we rise.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a brief break. And when we come back, the incredible Robert Jones Jr. will read an excerpt from The Prophets. Don't go away.
Hi, this is United States Senator Cory Booker, thrilled to be able to recognize the 193rd anniversary of the Black Press of America and the 80th anniversary of the NNPA. We truly stand on the shoulders of giants. We have a history so rich with leaders in the Black press, names we know from Frederick Douglass to Ida B. Wells, so many people who were committed to telling the truth, not letting it be watered down or whitewashed. So many people that were willing to, with the truth, with their writing, with their journalism, to inspire, to ignite, to inform activists, citizens, and so many. Indeed, we have inherited a rich legacy, and we honor that legacy not just by recognizing it, but by continuing it, so that we may give honor to our ancestors' struggles and may give way for a better future for our children not yet born. We have work to do. May we continue to support the Black press and its essential role in the United States of America today and tomorrow. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Jones Jr.
Thank you. I will be reading from the chapter Samuel, from the bottom of page 300 for people who are reading along. And this chapter delves a little bit into Samuel's mind, what he thinks about Isaiah, how he feels about being enslaved on that plantation, and his anger at being enslaved on that plantation. Isaiah sat down on a pile of hay. He leaned back and then immediately sat up again. He brought his knees up to his chest and hugged them. Then he rubbed his head. I get tired, he said, but I want to live. See, that was where Isaiah had faltered. To survive in this place, you had to want to die. That was the way of the world as remade by Toubab, and Samuel's list of grievances was long. They pushed people into the mud and then called them filthy. They forbade people from accessing any knowledge of the world and then called them simple. They worked people until their empty hands were twisted, bleeding, and can do no more, then called them lazy. They forced people to eat innards from troughs and then called them uncivilized. They kidnapped babies and shattered families and then called them incapable of love. They raped and lynched and cut up people into parts and then called the pieces savage. They stepped on people's throats with all their might and asked why the people couldn't breathe. And then, when people made an attempt to break the foot or cut it off one, they screamed chaos and claimed that mass murder was the only way to restore order. They praised every daisy and then called every blackberry a stain. They bled the color from God's face, gave it a dangle between its legs, and called it holy. Then, when they were done breaking things, they pointed at the sky and called the color of the universe itself a sin. And the whole world believed them, even some of Samuel's people, especially some of Samuel's people. This was untoward and made it hard to open your heart, to feel a sense of loyalty that wasn't a strategy. It was easier to just seal yourself up and rock yourself to sleep. But Isaiah had widened him, given him another body to rely upon, made him dream that a dance wasn't merely possible, but something they could do together, would do together the minute they were free. A dreadful thing to get a man's hopes up that way. Hope made him feel chest open, unsheltered in a way that could let anything, including failure, make its home inside, become seed and take root, curl its vines around that which is vital, and squeeze until the only option was to spit up your innards before choking on them. Foolish Isaiah, but how tender his affection. When Samuel reached the big house, it was dark. There wasn't even a single candle lit. The back porch was open just like Timothy said it would be. Maggie was on a pallet in a small side room just off the porch. Her fists were tightly balled and pressed against her chest like she was ready for something. He told me to leave this door open. Why I ain't lock it, I don't know, she whispered. Samuel was only half surprised that she was still awake. He moved closer to her with his lantern, held it up in front of him. Her face was screwed into distrust. Samuel loved her for it. She would be the one he missed most. You warm, Samuel said, which made Maggie smile. I go this away? He asked, pointing toward the kitchen. You need to go that away, Maggie replied, pointing outside toward the river. You sound like Isaiah, he grunted. Sound like Isaiah got some sense. Where yon? I got sense, Miss Maggie. Just this one last thing. And then I heed you. Thank you.
Hey now. Wow.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. I can totally hear the Morrison influence in your writing. It's really fantastic. Well, I have a quick question for you. What have you learned about yourself now that you wish you knew earlier in your own writing?
That I could do it.
Hey now.
There's no shame in me saying I am a good writer. That my ancestors, the universe, the all, God, whatever it is you want to call it, brought me here for this singular purpose. If I had known that sooner, I would have taken writing seriously sooner.
I want to ask you very quickly, and I know we're running short on time here, that there are times when that magical moment comes. We spoke of magic, where a book gets turned into a film to be watched and taken in by a broader audience. Sometimes writers will think of certain people that they could see in some of those main characters. With those two main characters, is there anybody out there right now that if you had your druthers would be in those roles?
Michael B. Jordan and Damson Idris.
Oh my, I'm there. I'm there. I don't know if they are, but I'm there.
Alvin, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you.
Probably a good thing, given
No.
the two people that you
I know. He would have embarrassed himself.
I was so thank you, Robert. I was so caught up in reading the book, I was still there, but thank you so much. Yeah, I was going to go out to get a ticket anyway for the movie. Okay, but Robert, before we let you go, I got to ask you, what is next for Robert Jones Jr.? Is there anything coming up that we need to know that will be live and exclusive right here on He Said Live?
Robert Jones Jr. is currently working on his next novel. I'm about 60,000 words into it. It is still historical fiction, but much, much closer to the contemporary times. I'm looking at like the 80s, 90s, and beyond. And my work will always be from the Black queer perspective, or the Black same gender loving perspective. So this book too will privilege those kinds of characters. So I'm very excited about it, and I'm a better writer now than I was when I wrote The Prophet. So I'm really pleased with how this work is turning out. And also stay tuned. I can't say much about this right now, but stay tuned for The Prophet showing up in some other format, and that's kind of all I can say about that.
Well,
that's exciting.
It's already being sold in 17 other countries. Is it 15 or 15 countries? Is it 15?
Something like that? Yes.
Something like that. 15 or 17 different countries. So my eyes are open. Okay.
I hope you got a chance to also see the well wishes on the part of our listeners for your health also. That they are thinking of you and wishing you well.
I am very grateful for everyone who came today, who are sending well wishes, who are reading the book, who are moved by this conversation I'm having with these three lovely brothers. This has been the highlight of my day. This was a very challenging day, and this moment made it something of a blessing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We love that you were here with us, and we love the time that we have.
It's our honor to have you, Robert.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of our show. Next week, Vash, Boddie, and I are doing something very special. We're having a topic-driven show, another show that's very special. We're doing a topic-driven show called Forever Friends, and we've decided to, ask our very best friend to come on the show, and we'll leave that as a surprise. But please tune in next week for Forever Friends. And before I go, I'm going to leave you with our words of the week. An arrow can only be shot by pulling it backwards. So when life is dragging you back with difficulties, it means that it's going to launch you into something great. So just focus and keep aiming. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. Special thank you to Robert Jones Jr. I'm a new fan. I'm a new friend. Look, thank you for coming on the show, man. I love you, and nothing but the best for you. It was a great show that I'll be watching over and over again. So until next week. Until next week, everyone.
Yeah, you heard that.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. God has spoken.
Thunder and lightning. Yes.
So until next week, everybody, stay cool, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of He Said.
He said.
He said.
Thanks,
Good night, everybody.